We tend to, we operate under this assumption that celebrity worship is like an entirely modern condition.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we look at the sheer hysteria generated by internet influencers today.
Yeah, people who basically have massive cultural power just by being visible.
Exactly. And we blame the smartphone. We think, oh, it's the algorithm.
Yeah. Right, right.
And there's this collective belief that before the digital age, society was just anchored in like genuine substance.
That we only revered historical achievement or, inherited nobility.
Yeah, or titans of industry.
Yeah.
But, it's a very comforting historical illusion.
It really is. I mean, we like to compartmentalize the past as this dignified era of meritocracy. But if you actually look at the mechanics of fame, visibility has always been the primary currency.
Always.
The only thing that changes is the distribution method.
Which brings us directly into the world of Cole Porter.
Oh, yes.
Because Porter looked at the cultural landscape of 1943 and saw this exact mechanism operating with just like crystal clarity.
He really did.
He recognized that wealth, royal bloodlines, and even the most legendary historical symbols of virility were being rendered, well, totally obsolete.
And they were being replaced by, of all things, guys swinging a baton in front of a brass section.
Exactly. I mean, he captured a massive cultural paradigm shift.
Moving from inherited authority to mass media charisma.
Right.
And he did it entirely within the confines of a Broadway list song, which is just wild.
It's a stunning piece of sociological observation, honestly, wrapped up in a comic novelty number.
Yeah.
So welcome, everyone, to episode 68 of Porter-Pedia. This is our ongoing exploration into the world, the work, and the life of Cole Porter.
So glad you're joining us again.
Yeah, for those of you who have been with us through past sessions, we've already meticulously dissected the sociological coding in songs like Farming.
Right, and we mapped out the shifting cultural values in You're the Top.
Exactly. And we broke down the mythological name-dropping in They Couldn't Compare to You.
So many good ones.
If you haven't heard those explorations, I highly encourage you to check them out. They provide really essential context for how Porter constructs these musical arguments.
They absolutely do. I mean, Porter didn't just write lyrics. He wrote cultural indices.
Yeah.
His list songs are essentially ledgers recording exactly what society valued, feared, and obsessed over at any given moment.
And today's mission is focused on the references dropped in his 1943 list song, The Leader of a Big-Time Band.
Such a great track.
We are using this really fascinating article on the song's cultural impact as our primary source today, alongside the original lyrics and a comprehensive reference list.
And a quick note before we get into the mechanisms of this song.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
If you enjoy mapping out these cultural shifts as much as we do, you must buy the book, Porter-Pedia.
You really have to. It explains every single reference Porter ever dropped across his entire career.
Over 2,600 of them.
Over 2,600. It's wild. The link is in the description.
It is an indispensable resource. It maps out the associative leaps Porter makes, which are, frankly, often dizzying.
Truly. And there's also a link in the description to a performance of The Leader of a Big-Time Band.
Yes, please go watch that.
It is amazing. You absolutely must hear it to understand the tempo we're going to be talking about today. And you'll find the full lyrics there as well.
Highly recommend having those open while we talk.
So let's establish the atmospheric backdrop here. It's 1943.
Right.
We need to understand the psychological weight of this specific year to understand why a song about band leaders carries so much weight.
Yeah, the environment of 1943 is defined by this suffocating, omnipresent anxiety.
Because the United States is fully entrenched in the Second World War.
Exactly. This isn't an abstract conflict happening in the background. It has completely reorganized American society.
Right, you have total economic mobilization.
Factories are operating on 24-hour shifts.
Yeah, and rationing is dictating what people can eat, what they can wear, how they can travel.
And most critically, millions of young men are deployed across two massive global theaters.
Our primary source highlights this brutal juxtaposition, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah.
Daily newspapers were printing local casualty lists right next to patriotic advertisements for war bonds.
Wow.
I know. The trauma was just integrated into the daily routine. You couldn't buy a loaf of bread without being reminded of the mortality rate in the Pacific.
The psychological toll of that sustained tension is just enormous. And human beings, they cannot exist in a state of perpetual panic without some kind of release valve.
Right, you'd go crazy.
So what happens, paradoxically, amidst all of this grief and anxiety, America enters one of the most vibrant, kinetic periods of dance and musical culture in its entire history.
The ballrooms were absolutely packed.
Fact.
But how does that physically work?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a population terrified of the next telegram, but they are crowding into ballrooms with mirrored ceilings.
Right. It seems contradictory.
What is the mechanism of that escapism? Is it just distraction?
Well, it's louder than distraction. It is sensory override.
Sensory override. I like that.
Think about the acoustic reality of a big band in 1943. You have perhaps 15 to 20 musicians on a bandstand.
Trumpets, trombones, saxophones.
A huge rhythm section.
Yeah.
It is physically loud. The syncopation is driving. The tempo is aggressive.
Yeah.
When you walk into that ballroom, the sheer acoustic force of the music physically displaces your internal anxiety.
You literally can't hear your own thoughts.
Exactly. You cannot ruminate on casualty lists when you are trying to keep up with the rhythm of a Benny Goodman arrangement. It demands total physical presence.
And Broadway was tapping into that exact same physiological need.
Absolutely.
I mean, the leader of a big-time band wasn't written in a vacuum. It was written for a musical called Something for the Boys.
Starring the incredible Ethel Merman.
Yes. The entire function of that show was to provide a patriotic framework that allowed the audience to laugh, to relax, and to just experience a few hours of unapologetic diversion.
And we have to look at Cole Porter's personal reality at this moment, too, because it creates this fascinating parallel.
Oh, right, his accident.
Yeah, Porter is providing this kinetic, buoyant escapism for the nation, but physically, he is trapped in a state of immense suffering.
Following his catastrophic horseback riding accident in 1937.
Where both of his legs were essentially crushed. He lived in chronic, agonizing pain. He required continuous surgeries.
I've always found that dichotomy incredible.
Yeah.
He's practically immobilized by pain, yet he is writing music that is forcing the entire country to its feet.
Yeah, he didn't retreat into isolation. If anything, as his physical limitations seem to sharpen his observational skills.
Like he's just sitting back and watching everything.
Exactly. He is tracking shifting musical fashions and social hierarchies with surgical precision.
He is watching the ascendance of the band leader. And this is the core thesis we really need to unpack today.
Yes, let's get into it.
In 1943, men like Tommy Dorsey, Harry James, and Benny Goodman were not merely popular musicians.
Not at all.
They occupied a space of cultural dominance that is almost difficult to overstate.
We really have to contextualize that dominance for a modern audience.
Yeah, let's do that. Because if we view the radio in 1943 not just as an appliance, but as the very first monolithic algorithmic feed, it changes how we see these musicians.
That's a great way to put it. Because before national radio syndication, musical fame was largely regional.
Right, or it relied on the slow dissemination of sheet music.
You had to go out and physically experience the performance in your town.
But national syndication meant Benny Goodman was being pushed into millions of living rooms simultaneously.
That is the crucial mechanism. It creates a synchronized national obsession.
Yeah, teenagers in New York, Ohio, and California are memorizing the exact same clarinet solos at the exact same moment.
The radio dissolved geographical boundaries and created a unified mass culture fandom. The bandstand was no longer just a stage in a nightclub.
It was a literal throne broadcasting absolute cultural authority.
Which sets up Porter's argument perfectly.
Right, because if radio syndication can create that level of synchronized worship, it fundamentally threatens the old hierarchy of power.
Yeah, Porter builds this thesis right into the very architecture of the List song.
And the List song isn't just a collection of random observations, right?
No, it is a structured, cumulative argument. And he begins by establishing a wonderfully absurd premise.
The introductory verse functions as a miniature lecture.
He addresses the listener directly, laying out a problem and offering a completely ridiculous solution.
Yeah, the lyrics state, let me read it. If a girl in any sector makes you feel like the puppy called Hector, and you're longing to subject her, to elect her your wife and protect her, become a top band director and you never will miss.
The audacity of that solution is what makes it work so well.
He is essentially saying, are you struggling to impress a woman? Are you feeling inadequate? The fix is incredibly straightforward.
Simply acquire the most coveted, highly visible, culturally dominant job in the United States.
It treats becoming Benny Goodman as casually as picking up a new hobby. Like, oh, just go be a band leader, you'll be fine.
Right. It lowers the barrier of entry to fame for comic effect, but it also signals to the audience that the logic of the song is going to be intentionally warped.
And he enforces that warped logic through the tempo and the rhyme scheme.
Let's look closely at that opening rhyme chain.
Okay, yes. Hector, sector, subjector, elector, protector, director.
It is a relentless cascade. When you listen to the performance, you realize Porter isn't giving the audience time to breathe.
No, not at all. He is forcing them to sprint alongside him, like a vaudeville comedian just improvising a routine at breakneck speed.
It functions as an intellectual filter. Porter is demanding active listening.
Right, if you miss a beat, you miss the joke.
And the very first specific cultural reference he drops within that manic chain is a perfect example of how he subverts expectations.
He references Hector.
Yes.
Right, Hector of Troy. We are talking about Homer's Iliad here.
The noble, tragic, ultimate symbol of classical martial heroism.
In any traditional context, comparing someone to Hector is invoking immense grandeur.
Oh, massive grandeur.
But Porter takes this towering figure of antiquity and applies him to a pathetic, lovesick dog.
Makes you feel like the puppy called Hector.
Our reference materials confirm that this is a unique instance in Porter's entire catalog.
Yeah, he never uses Hector in a heroic context anywhere else.
He immediately shrinks him down to a punchline.
And this accomplishes two things. First, it gets a laugh through sheer incongruity.
Sure.
But structurally, it announces his intention to demolish historical reverence. If Hector of Troy is just a sad puppy, no historical figure is safe from being reduced to a punchline.
He is completely clearing the historical slate.
Exactly.
And that leads us to the cumulative extravagance of the song's main refrains.
Having established that the band director is the ultimate prize, he proceeds to test that theory against increasingly powerful historical adversaries.
Starting by dismantling the power of wealth.
Right. The second refrain targets the financial elite.
The lyrics read, "In the Gilded Age, a Wall Street millionaire was the answer to a working maiden's prayer. But today she'd chuck that yearly 50 grand for the leader of a big-time band."
A yearly 50 grand in 1943 is staggering wealth.
Staggering. But I want to push back on this slightly.
Oh, okay.
Is Porter really suggesting that human nature changed so fundamentally that financial security became irrelevant?
Well,
Or is he identifying a specific wartime psychology where the immediate, visceral thrill of the music felt more vital than long-term financial stability?
that is a very astute question. Consider the economic context we discussed earlier.
Right, the Great Depression.
They had just survived the Depression, where they saw massive fortunes evaporate literally overnight.
Yeah, money wasn't real anymore.
Exactly. Then they entered a war where the future itself was entirely uncertain. The idea of a stable, long-term financial future represented by a Wall Street millionaire felt almost abstract.
Perhaps even archaic.
What felt real was the immediate present. The visceral, physical reality of the music in the ballroom was something you could actually hold on to.
So Porter is arguing that in an era of profound instability, vitality outranks wealth.
Vitality over wealth, yes.
That changes the framing entirely. It isn't just a joke about a girl liking a musician.
No, it's a commentary on what currency actually holds value when the world feels like it's ending.
And he escalates this argument by moving from the merchants of wealth to the literal embodiment of absolute power. He brings in the monarchy.
He moves from Wall Street straight to Versailles.
In the days when old King Louis held the scene, any jock who had the jack could play the queen, but today who'd be the choice to beat the band? Why, the leader of a big-time band.
Old King Louis. Louis XIV. The Sun King.
We're talking about the divine right of kings here, the absolute zenith of inherited power and opulence.
And Porter pits the divine right of Versailles directly against a jazz-age bankroll.
Look at the slang he employs.
Yeah, any jock who had the jack could play the queen. Jock being a colloquial term for a nobleman, and jack representing money.
I love that. He is demystifying royal romance.
He is saying that in the past, aristocratic love was merely a transaction based on title and capital.
But the punchline is that neither the title nor the capital matters anymore.
Ah.
The guy with the trombone neutralizes the divine right of kings.
The sheer charisma of the bandleader overrides centuries of European social hierarchy.
It is a deeply democratic sentiment, expressed through jazz slang.
The public, the working maiden, is deciding who holds the power, not a royal decree.
Okay, so Porter has neutralized wealth, and he has neutralized absolute authority.
Right.
But wealth and royalty are institutional forms of power. What happens when he pits the band leader against the ultimate historical currency of pure romantic and physical virility?
Ah.
That brings us to the Casanova stanza, which contains what might be the most layered and bizarre joke in the entire song.
This is where Porter's observational comedy operates at its absolute highest frequency.
He sets up the historical premise. In the days when Casanova was the tops, all his rivals with the films were famous flops.
He invokes Giacomo Casanova, the definitive European avatar of romantic escapades and unstoppable seduction.
But he invokes Casanova merely as a setup to deliver an incredibly specific contemporary joke.
Yes.
He asks, but today who's got that extra monkey gland? Why, the leader of a big-time band.
The monkey gland.
I need us to really dissect the mechanics of this monkey gland reference because it is doing so much heavy lifting.
It sounds like surrealist nonsense, doesn't it?
Totally. But it is rooted in a very real, very strange cultural phenomenon.
To understand the monkey gland lyric, we really have to look at the pseudoscientific landscape of the 1920s and 30s.
Okay, paint the picture for us.
There was a genuine crisis of masculinity among the aging elite, fueled by the trauma of the First World War and, shifting social dynamics.
Right.
In response to this, a doctor named Serge Voronov developed a highly publicized, incredibly controversial surgical procedure.
And the procedure was exactly what it sounds like.
Unfortunately, yes. Voronov claimed that by grafting tissue from monkey testicles onto aging human males, he could reverse the aging process.
Oh my God.
He claimed it could restore cognitive function and, most importantly to his clientele, completely restore sexual virility.
So it was marketed as the ultimate fountain of youth for the wealthy.
Exactly. But it wasn't just some fringe medical experiment that nobody knew about. It became a massive cultural touchstone.
It was written about in newspapers, debated by scientists.
And heavily mocked by the general public. It became a ubiquitous punchline symbolizing the desperate, absurd lengths to which men would go to retain their youth and relevance.
So look at the causality there.
Yeah.
Porter takes Casanova, the historical peak of natural virility.
Yeah.
And places him directly adjacent to the monkey gland, the modern, pathetic surgical attempt to manufacture virility.
By juxtaposing them, he flattens the entire spectrum of male romantic effort.
I am stuck on that juxtaposition, though. Why pair a legendary seducer with a botched medical procedure? It feels deliberately jarring.
It is jarring because he wants to highlight the futility of both approaches.
Oh, I see.
He is arguing that whether you are relying on the legendary innate charm of a Casanova or you are relying on the desperate pseudoscientific intervention of a Voronov surgery, you are irrelevant.
Wow.
Both the romantic past and the medical present are useless. The band leader doesn't need historical charm, and he certainly doesn't need monkey glands.
Right. His virility is entirely derived from his cultural dominance, from his ability to command the music that is driving the nation.
The baton replaces both the romantic letter and the surgeon's scalpel. It is a brilliant dismissal.
And this requires a highly sophisticated audience. Porter is assuming his 1943 listeners possess a shared cultural vocabulary that allows them to instantly connect Casanova to a 1920s medical fad.
It demonstrates enormous trust in his audience.
Yeah.
He doesn't pause to provide context. He relies on their cultural literacy to parse the collision of high art, history, and nightclub humor.
Which perfectly sets up his next collision. Having dismantled masculinity, he takes aim at the sacred cows of European high culture.
Here we go.
He gives us this astonishing couplet. When, in Venice, Georgia Sand with Chopin romped, her libido had the lido simply swamped.
This is a masterclass in linguistic gymnastics and cultural deflation.
Break it down for us.
He targets George Sand, the pen name of Amandine Lucille Aurore Dupin. She was one of the most significant French novelists of the 19th century.
Very highbrow.
Very. She was famous for her intellectual output, her defiance of gender norms, and her tempestuous relationship with the Polish composer Frédéric Chopin.
They represent the absolute pinnacle of European artistic sophistication.
But look at the mechanics of how Porter dismantles that sophistication. He doesn't attack their art.
No, he attacks their dignity through casual Americanization.
Yes. He takes the austere George Sand and turns it into Georgia Sand.
He gives her a breezy, almost hillbilly moniker.
It completely undercuts the reverence, and then he focuses on the physicality of their romance. He rhymes her romp with swamped, painting this chaotic, messy picture.
But the true genius is the geographical rhyme.
Oh yeah, he rhymes her libido with the lido.
The Lido being the famous luxury beach resort district in Venice.
Exactly.
So Porter has taken this towering historical romance and reduced it to a comic image of an esteemed French novelist possessing a libido so massive that it physically floods an entire Venetian beach resort.
It turns high culture history into a Looney Tunes gag.
It really does. It strips away the aristocratic veneer of history and exposes the primal, often ridiculous human behavior underneath.
And he doesn't stop with literature. He pushes the boundary even further by targeting sacred history.
Oh,
He
okay.
goes after the Bible.
Yeah, he writes, when Salome got John the Bee and by the head, it appears he wasn't kosher into bed, but today who'd be the goy she'd like to land? Why, the leader of a big-time band.
This feels incredibly dangerous for 1943.
You are taking a biblical story involving execution and performing it like a Borscht Belt stand-up routine.
It is intentionally provocative. The story of Salome demanding the head of John the Baptist is one of the darkest narratives of fatal attraction in antiquity,
And Porter reduces John the Baptist to John the Bee.
trivializing a martyr.
He notes that Salome got him by the head, which is a gruesome literal pun on execution.
But the real shift is the introduction of Yiddish slang and ethnic humor.
He suggests that John the Baptist wasn't kosher in a bed and asks who the goy, the non-Jew is that Salome wants today.
The mechanism here is context collapse. He takes a narrative that belongs in a cathedral or a Sunday school, and he drags it directly into a smoky, fast-talking New York cabaret.
By treating biblical figures with the exact same irreverent slang he uses for Wall Street millionaires, he strips them of their mythic untouchability.
If John the Baptist isn't safe from being roasted, then nobody is safe.
Nobody. Which brings us to the actual living untouchables of Porter's own era, the American high society elite.
Porter occupied this world. He lived among the old money and the socialites.
Right, so his critique here isn't just observational. It is an insider's demolition.
Absolutely.
My favorite linguistic invention in the entire song is his coinage of the term debutramps.
It is a spectacularly efficient portmanteau.
He merges debutante, the young, heavily chaperoned, ostensibly refined daughters of the wealthy elite, with the word tramp.
What does that word accomplish mechanically? It instantly visualizes the collapse of social barriers.
You picture these girls in their custom gowns, completely abandoning their finishing school training because they are overcome by a clarinet solo.
The music physically compels them to abandon their class standing.
And he names the pinnacle of that class standing to make sure the target is clear.
He sings, "When Dorsey starts to tilt that horn about, dear Mrs. Vanderbilt bumps herself out."
We have to unpack Mrs. Vanderbilt because that name carried a very specific weight. We aren't just talking about a wealthy person. We're talking about American royalty.
Specifically, Gladys Moore Vanderbilt Sekeni.
The proprietor of the Breakers in Newport.
Yes, Newport society was governed by incredibly rigid codes of conduct, exclusivity, and emotional restraint. Mrs. Vanderbilt represents the absolute zenith of old money dignity and stiff upper lip propriety.
She's the anchor of the old world order.
And Porter says that all it takes is Tommy Dorsey tilting a trombone to cause this anchor of propriety to bump herself out.
Let's look at the physicality of that slang. According to the reference materials, bumping out meant dancing energetically, abandoning restraint.
Specifically engaging in the rhythmic, suggestive pelvic bumps associated with swing and jazz dancing.
The visual comedy is immense. You imagine this dowager draped in pearls and rigid social expectations suddenly throwing her hips out to a brass section.
It is hilarious, but it is also profound. Porter is demonstrating that the music is not just a pleasant sound, it is a democratizing physical force.
It liberates the female body from the constraints of aristocratic dignity.
The band leader is holding a tool that strips away artifice. The baton is wielding more immediate influence over human behavior than millions of dollars or centuries of etiquette.
And that brings us to the architects of this new world order. The band leaders themselves.
Having cleared the stage of kings, warriors, and millionaires, Porter introduces his new gods.
He populates this pantheon with very specific figures, and each represents a different facet of this new cultural dominance.
He begins with Harry James.
The lyrics go, "When they hear Harry James make with the lips, the most colonial dames fracture their hips."
Harry James was a massive presence. He was a phenomenal trumpeter, and his marriage to Betty Grable, the definitive World War II pinup, cemented his status as the ultimate symbol of wartime glamour.
But notice what Porter focuses on. Make with the lips. He focuses on the physical, almost sensual act of playing the instrument.
And the result is that colonial games, again, women of high old world pedigree, are dancing so hard they literally fracture their hips.
It highlights the dangerous, uncontrollable energy of the music.
Then he moves to Benny Goodman. When Goodman, champ of champs, goes blowin' blue.
Calling Goodman the champ of champs is a fascinating choice. I wonder about that phrasing.
Oh.
Champ of champs. Sounds almost gladiatorial.
Sure.
Is Porter pandering to the masses here? Is he just repeating the marketing copy of the era, or is he making a sharper point?
It is a sharp point because he is applying a title usually reserved for conquerors or heavyweight fighters to a guy holding a piece of wood with keys on it.
Oh, I see.
He is acknowledging that the arena has changed. The new conquerors conquer through rhythm.
Goodman's ability to blow blue, to play those flattened, emotive notes derived from African-American blues traditions, is what causes the high society debutantes to lose their composure.
The cultural power is flowing from the bandstand outward.
He continues this cataloging of power with Xavier Cugat, and this is a crucial inclusion.
Xavier Cugat was instrumental in popularizing Latin music, specifically the rumba and the mambo, to mainstream American audiences.
He was an inescapable presence in Hollywood films and on the radio.
He represented a different, distinctly cosmopolitan flavor of musical celebrity.
And Porter pairs Cugat with one of the most famous, controversial women in America, Gypsy Rose Lee.
Yes.
The lyrics are, when Cugat comes to tea with Gypsy Rose, she gets so head up she puts on her clothes, and she only turns one cheek while being scanned by the leader of a big-time, jig-time, dig-a-dig-time band.
This is the ultimate subversion of expectations.
Right, because Gypsy Rose Lee was the intellectual queen of burlesque.
Her entire massive fame, her whole public persona, was predicated on the art of taking her clothes off. She was the embodiment of deliberate public immodesty.
But the mechanism of Cugat's music reverses her entire persona.
The music makes her so up, so emotionally and physically overwhelmed that she actually gets dressed.
Wait, really? She puts them on?
Yes, she puts her clothes back on. She becomes entirely modest, only turning one cheek.
It demonstrates the absolute sovereignty of the band leader.
He can take Mrs. Vanderbilt, the most dignified woman in America, and make her act wildly inappropriate.
And he can take Gypsy Rose Lee, the most famous stripper in America, and make her act like a demure schoolgirl.
The band leader controls the emotional and physical responses of the entire social spectrum. He has inverted the laws of nature.
And just to ensure that the listener understands that all traditional bets are off, Porter throws in a geographic shorthand for the collapse of romantic permanence.
He references Reno.
When in Reno, ladies we know used to clown, all the chaps who wore the chaps could wear 'em down.
We have to understand the specific cultural function of Reno, Nevada in the 1930s and 40s. It wasn't just a city, it was an institution.
Nevada had liberalized its divorce laws, right? Requiring only a 6-week residency to dissolve a marriage.
Exactly. It created an entire microeconomy and social scene of wealthy socialites living on divorce ranches, waiting out their 6 weeks.
It became the instant punchline for marital instability. The sheer existence of the Reno divorce trade signaled that the old-world expectation of lifelong, enduring romance was cracking.
Porter uses it to show that the traditional replacements, the local cowboys, the chaps who wore the chaps, who used to romance these newly single women, are now entirely out of luck.
The transient thrill of the band leader has replaced the reliable husband and the local romantic prospect alike.
The women leaving Reno don't want a new marriage. They want proximity to the bandstand.
So, if we pull all of these threads together, the dismissal of Wall Street, the mockery of Versailles, the flattening of Casanova, the collapse of Newport high society, and the reversal of Gypsy Rose Lee, we see the complete architecture of Porter's argument.
He isn't just writing a pitchy tune, he is documenting the exact mechanics of how glamour became democratized.
These new heroes, these band leaders, didn't inherit castles.
They didn't have divine right. Their power was granted to them by millions of consumers listening to the radio and buying war bonds.
The song is a blueprint of the moment celebrity culture mutated into its modern, recognizable form.
The authority of bloodline was officially replaced by the authority of the broadcast.
Which brings us back to where we started. The joke in 1943 relied on the audience recognizing the absurdity of a clarinet player holding more power than a king.
Right.
But looking at our landscape today, where cultural and economic power is concentrated so heavily in the hands of the highly visible, it seems Porter wasn't just writing a joke, he was writing a prophecy.
He recognized the trajectory of mass media. When visibility becomes the primary metric of value, the people who control the broadcast, whether it's a radio antenna in 1943 or a server farm today, become the new aristocracy.
It really reframes how you listen to a novelty song.
It does.
Beneath the breakneck tempo and the cascading rhymes, the leader of a big-time band is an incredibly precise cultural diagnostic tool.
It measures the vital signs of a society in massive transition, discarding its old idols and crowning new ones right there on the dance floor.
It is history documented in syncopation.
Perfectly said.
I want to leave everyone with a final thought to ponder. We have seen the mechanisms Cole Porter used to document the shift from inherited power to radio celebrity, but apply that diagnostic tool to our current era.
Oh, that's interesting.
If Porter were sitting in an apartment today, observing our landscape of digital influencers, tech billionaires, and streaming empires, what would the architecture of his new list song look like?
Who is the modern Mrs. Vanderbilt?
Right. And what modern force possesses the power to make her abandon her dignity? Who has replaced the bandleader as the ultimate, absurd symbol of modern desirability?
It's worth thinking about the next time you scroll through a feed.
The names change, but the mechanics of desire remain remarkably consistent.
They really do.
Thank you for joining us for this session. A final reminder, check the description for the link to buy the incredible Porter-Pedia book. As we've seen today, understanding these references unlocks entirely new layers of meaning, and the book covers thousands more.
Yes, definitely grab the book.
And you absolutely must click the link to hear the performance of the leader of a big-time band and read the lyrics for yourself. The sheer velocity of the song is something you just have to experience.
It's fantastic.
We will be back with more explorations, but until then, keep paying attention to the lyrics and keep questioning what the music is telling you about the world.